Welcome to the business of being healthy, where we are passionate about treating our health as good as we treat our wealth. Shelly Bryan here, and I am obsessed with sharing real-life experiences and wisdom to help save you time, heartache, and money as you continue to grow personally and professionally. Twice a week, we push aside that BS to take massive intentional action. And I promise by tuning in, you will receive the straightforward talk you've been waiting for, filled with actionable steps that will inspire you to achieve the health and wealth you desire while you are building your empire. Today is day 4 of this 5-part mini series that is my health and wealth blueprint. So this is something that I did a deep dive on over the last 10 years. What are the things that have truly set me apart when I actually incorporated my health into my professional life, whether that was climbing corporate ladders, building businesses, being a great mom, all of those things. So number 4 is one of my favorites. And I feel like this is a little bit more of a hot topic. I wouldn't even say hot topic. It's one of those topics that people love to talk about and make it seem like it's easier than it really is. And I'm here to tell you that while it may be simple concept to understand, it's not necessarily easy to do. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm giving you a pass that you shouldn't do this. This is one of the things that has truly separated me. So just to take you kind of back through these 3 steps that we already covered here and this is the health and wealth blueprint. So you can either go down, there's a link in the notes here, and or go over to my social media. You could send a link there. You could go to my website, wherever you want to go. You could find this, download it, and follow along. But this is kind of to go along with it to make it really hit home. So I'm giving you the blueprint, but then these episodes, this series is to really dive down deep into it. So number 1 was all about fueling your body. That was all about nutrition, but like productive, efficient nutrition. This in no way is about dieting. It is all about leveraging the power of food and your nutrition so that you can produce more in your business and or your career. The second one was all about setting physical fitness standards. Notice I didn't say 6 days a week, exercising, all this great stuff. That is a great episode, and I'm hoping that it reframes how you think about physical fitness and how it can actually help. It's one of my secret weapons, quite honestly. This is such a great episode. You got to go back and listen. Listen to the whole thing is what I'm saying, is that exercise is one of my secret tools that I use when I have a problem to solve or I need to boost my creativity. I always go to physical fitness. Number 3, this one really hit home with a lot of you guys. I got so many DMs, and I love it because it's one that's not talked about, but it was all about optimizing your sleep. And it's one of those things that it's a lot easier than you think. This is the one that's a lot easier than you think. And just little small tweaks can increase your sleep, which then increases your able to produce throughout your day in your business, in your life as a leader of your organization and or of the family. And today I am so excited because we are going to be talking about creating productive habits. Notice I didn't just say habits. This is a key thing here. So everyone is like, oh, habits, have your morning routine, have all of these habits, do all of these like little things, reschedule and do this, create habits. Are these habits even productive? That's where the important keyword is in this whole title of this episode is creating productive habits. Productive is the keyword, not habits. So one question, we're going to dive into some statistics here. I'm going to actually give you some action items. So you're going to want to stay throughout this whole episode. You're also going to want to go back, like I said, and re-listen to or listen to for the first time, the first 3 the first 3 steps of this series. This is number 4. And then next week will be number 5. But this one, you got to ask yourself when it comes to habits. And before we get into that, it's important to note the word habit is because there's habits and there's routines. And sometimes they get used interchangeably when they actually mean very different things. So a habit is something that is easy to do. It's almost like you don't even think about it. It's a habit. You wake up, you maybe brush your teeth or have a cup of coffee. Before you go to bed, you probably brush your teeth, take out your contacts, wash your face. These are all habits that you have created that are easy to do. And then you have routines. Well, routine is something that you're starting to do that's new, maybe, and it's a little bit harder until it becomes a habit. So the routine is the harder part, not necessarily the habit. So I wanted to point out that slight difference to really help kind of reframe how you think about habits. And now we're going to dive into some statistics because I think that it's so important to see this because it is a buzzword, like I said. But we have to see if the habits that we're doing are taking you closer to or farther away from your goals. So that's the first question. You have to really self-reflect. And this is truly, and it doesn't stop. I've been doing this more this year than ever before. But I started creating habits and creating routines over a decade ago. I just have become so specific in being able to reflect on what I want to do. Is time is so valuable. I'm sorry, I'm squirreling, but you guys got to stick. This is a passionate one for me. Is time is so valuable. And if you spend so much time listening to all the buzz out there about all these routines you need to create, you need to have this morning routine, you need to have this close down routine, you need to have this routine at work, you need to do all this. You're wasting so much time because you're trying to start all these new routines to turn into habits when we haven't even decided, does this habit, once it's created, take me closer to or farther away from where I want to go? That's really at the end of the day. Because if it's pulling me farther away, but everyone in social media land or every book I read is saying that this is what you have to do to be successful, question that. It could be taking you farther away. And so I want to kind of dive in, and we're going to go kind of soup to nuts, top to bottom, and then I'm going to give you those action items, like I said. But where this whole, you may have heard about 21 days to start a new habit, right? Is back in the 50s, there was a plastic surgeon. His name was Maxwell Maltz, and he started noticing if he did an amputation or if he did a nose job on a patient, he noticed that these patients, it would take them about 21 days to actually recognize the new situation, right? So recognize them if they perhaps did a nose job, recognize themselves in the mirror. If they maybe had to do an amputation on an arm, they would have phantom feelings of that arm was still there. And at about that 21-day mark, he started noticing that his patients started being okay, I feel like this is my new me. This is my new norm. And so he started seeing it. And he actually created a book all about it. And it's interesting because, of course, the book became a blockbuster hit. It sold 30 million copies. And that's when everyone kind of was oh, 21 days is just that's the ticket. 21 days and you have your new habit. And you see, people from even back in the day, Zig Ziglar to Brian Tracy to Tony Robbins, it's 21 days to start that new habit. Well, everyone is different. First off, we have to say that. And everyone's situation is a little bit different. And so then there was a psychology researcher at the University College in London, and she conducted a study that was actually published in the European Journal of Social Psychology. And her team decided to figure out exactly how long does it take to form a habit. Okay, so in the 50s, we heard this 21-day fix, and then here we are. So in this study, they looked at 96 people over a 12-week period, and each person chose a new habit, new routine they wanted to create in that. And then they would report on, each day. were they able to do it or not, and then how automatic the behavior felt. And it could be anything from like drinking a bottle of water after lunch to doing some form of exercise before dinner. And at the end of the 12 weeks, the researchers analyzed the data and realized, based upon data, that it takes more than 2 months before a new behavior, right, a new routine becomes automatic and a habit. 66 days to be exact. And so I want to bring it back to the fact that we can hear a lot of things out there. We can read a lot of books. We can see a lot of things that say, here, it's 21 days and you've got your new habit. And I feel like sometimes when we do that, I know if I do that for me, it sets me up for failure. Because if I don't have that new habit by this period of time, then you could be like, oh, well, I must be a failure, or I didn't do this right, or I'm just not good enough. And that's not the case. We all have different things going on in our life. And based upon what we have going on in our life, based upon previous experiences, based upon the things that we want to accomplish or the habits that we want to create, it is going to be different for everybody. And so I love that we do have research that shows really what it looks like. So 2 months to kind of create the new habit. And if it takes you a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, that's great. But creating habits is much more about, in my experience, and this is the meat of it, guys, in my experience, it's much more about eliminating habits than creating new habits. So stick with me here for a minute. Is all the time, if you are on a personal or professional growth trajectory, you want to get from point A to point B. It's what are the little hacks? What are the little things that we can do to boost ourselves? And habits is one of them. 100%, without doubt. I can give you numerous examples. But I can actually give you more examples of habits I had to eliminate that were pulling me farther away from my end goal. And that's what's not talked about as much. And here I am sharing the meat of it. Now, there was a study done by the University of California, and it showed that employees who practice effective time management techniques are 30% more likely to be high performers in their roles. Time management techniques is one of those habits that I always wanted to focus on. I always wanted to maximize my time. If you follow me on social media, we live, I call it like we're in kind of Northeast Scottsdale. We have to go to town. We drive a lot. So time management is extremely important to me because I am in the car driving a lot with the car, with the business and everything. So when I see data like that, I'm like, all right, that's something that I need to make sure that I am managing effectively, especially as a business owner, especially as a mom, as a wife, just as a leader, honestly, just as a leader. So the whole point is when you are picking habits, when you are wanting to start new routines to turn into a habit, is number one, pick wisely. Just because you saw it or heard it doesn't mean that that's what you need. So clearly understanding your goal is going to be extremely important. And then whatever the process is, I love habit stacking. And if you haven't read yet the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I absolutely recommend that book. It will help you understand more of the process between creating the habit, stacking the habit, rewarding the habit, which is a very big part that is left out. My goal today was to actually help you see that productive habits, while we think always about addition, it's actually a little bit more, for me, in my experience, about deletion. And so be realistic in the habits that you want to create. Be realistic in what your goal is and the commitment that you can give towards that goal, towards the routines that can become habits. So what I want to leave you with today, of course, are action steps. And again, I'm going to give you one, but there are more in the blueprint guide that's absolutely free to download. So I encourage you to grab that. But my favorite thing to do, and like I said, this is something I've been doing so much this year because time has just become even more valuable, is conducting a personal habits audit. So what you can do is just create a note in your phone, grab a piece of paper, a notebook, and every night reflect on your day. So what did you do in the morning? What was the first thing that you did? Did you grab your phone? Did you jump on email? What did you do? Did that put you late? When you start going through your day and you reflect on all the things that you do throughout the day, you might be surprised at some things that you're doing that you didn't realize that you were. Then once you have that whole list, the inventory of your activities throughout the day, you can clearly see which ones are habits. You're really not thinking about it too much. You are just doing it. Ask yourself next, is this habit hurting me or helping me? Is it taking me closer to my goal or is it taking me farther away from my goal? This should be pretty black and white, quite honestly. And if there is any gray, ask yourself right now where you are, is this habit taking me closer to or farther away, right? Because right now it will become very clear, black and white, what that answer is. Once you get to a certain point, then it might become gray again. And then it might turn the opposite way. But when you take your time horizon and scrunch it down, it should become very clear. And so once you have that, that is where you have that inventory list. You ask your question, are these habits taking me closer to or farther away? Go through it. The things that are pulling you farther away, that's what we need to delete. If there are things that would take you closer that are not a habit, that's what we need to include. A lot of times it's taking this habits audit and understanding where you are and where you want to go. Then it becomes crystal clear for you to be able to create the proper routines to which become habits for you to get closer and closer to your goals. I hope this helped explain it from a little bit different perspective when it came to creating productive habits. This is incredibly important on both your health and your business journey. Absolutely both. And I encourage you to come back next week as we wrap up this series. I will make sure, actually, what I'm going to do is in all the notes, I'm going to drop a link to all the previous ones so that you can find it. Of course, you'll have the blueprint on there as well. That link, grab it, download it. This is 100% to you. I'm just giving this back to you because I love this community and I love what we're creating. And I know that you guys are like me. No BS. Let's get to the point. Let's take some action and let's go make our lives the lives that we want, whether it's in our health or business and or both. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you found value in this, I would incredibly appreciate sharing this out. Sharing this out makes all the difference in the world. You could be the hero to someone else. So please share social media, personally in a text message. It would absolutely mean the world to me. Until next time.